Hello, this is Greg Allison with Green Rigs coming to you on the 7th of September. Wow, this weekend was a riot. Or was it? Well, there was some pointy protest. Did they live up to the bar of the organizations that staged them? Or did it do something else? Now there's a question. So I'm going to give some analysis on the events of this weekend. As you may know, there was that group Fascism.org that was claiming they were going to post protest. They didn't claim peaceful protest in 26 cities, and it wasn't quite what they said. Although they claimed they were going to have 60 days of protest starting on the 5th of September. That they were going to have a continuous protest nationwide, and they were going to lead to the removal of Trump and Pence. Well, highly curious. I went to the riot, and I went to the riots. That's what I did this weekend. I went to the riots. So it's kind of like I went to the ball game, or I went to the races. In fact, there were also another event at the races in Kentucky, and with that group NFAC. And we'll talk about that some too. And no, they didn't quite go to the bar that they had advertised that either. And there's reasons. So we're going to talk about all of that. I'm going to show some video of the one arrest and takedown that did not make our local news that occurred at the BLM protest in Huntsville, Alabama on the 5th. Oh, I did say BLM protest, didn't I? It didn't sound like refuse fascism.org. Well, that's just the thing. There's some overlap here. So we're going to talk about that. What actually happened? What kind of protest took place? Where were they? And just we're not going to go into the 99th degree of it. We're going to touch on these topics just to kind of give you a flavor of what may be to come. Now, as you may know, a lot of us are really concerned and have been for some time. This country's been on pins and needles about what's coming up around this election time. And these guys were announcing, hey, we're going to start at the 5th of September, and it's just going to crank on and on and on. Well, maybe, and maybe it started light, but I really got to wonder now. I really got to wonder. And, maybe to really get heavy right before elections, but still, maybe some wind has gone out of the balloons. Maybe, just maybe. So we're going to talk about that. First, I'm going to show you some websites. I'm going to show you some more video from where I was at the protest. I'm going to show you video of the one takedown, the one arrest that occurred that did not get covered in the local news. Now, they covered an arrest from Sunday night, but not the event from the 5th. So that's what I'm going to show you. And so let's go into this. I'm going to do the screen share here. First, you must know, hey guys, look, I cover a lot of videos on this channel. I talk about prepping. I talk about growing your own food, which you really need to do. I talk about how to eat from the wild plants that are medicinal, that are food. These are things that help you survive, thrive, and stay out of the hive, which is the objective of this channel. That's my gift to you, is to teach you things in that area so you can learn how to survive, to get through the tough times ahead of us. And we're organizing survival tribes. We're doing a lot of things. And I've also started the Freedom Restoration Foundation. And that organization is intended to push for our freedoms. And I've been a busy puppy, and I've got a group of people working with us, and we're working up some lists on that. Oh, by the way, if you want to do that, email me at hal5space@aol.com and put either tribe in the subject line or freedom if you're interested in Freedom Foundation, and we'll get back to you. And I'll come up with this other email down the road. We're going to set up a website. We do have that domain reserved. Just been a little busy, and this is still in the formulation period. Okay, all that said, I highly suggest you subscribe to my channel and get updates. So if you're not done it, if you're new to this, bang the bell now. Subscribe and bang that update notification bell. Even engineers.
But there was.
And get her tongue. One of these videos is trying to play. So let me squelch that if I have to. All right, stop. That's what I hate about opening other news articles. Sometimes their videos will start like a minute, 5 minutes, 10 minutes later, and you don't know it's coming. I thought I had.
There's another group out there today, separate from the group that I followed that you just saw. My colleague Jesse Cohen followed them as they made their way also around Churchill.
I had this muted. I actually muted this, and it started anyway. See, these things are. You know what? I'm going to go ahead and cover this group while I'm at it. This group here This was my last thing I wanted to talk about, but this dumb little news channel, because they insist on playing a video, and even though I muted it, stopped it, and muted it, they have to come back. I hate websites that do that. You know, they're really a pain. So, in short, I'm going to jump to this topic, and then I'm going to pull it back a little bit. So, because I'm going to shut this website down, and I'm going to share it with you right now. Give me a second. Yeah, I just went there to shut down the voice on it, and I forgot I wasn't sharing it. So I jumped ahead of myself. Okay, here we are. This is the offensive website that just thinks it's got to play video and just put sound on your computer whether you want it or not. You know, that's one thing I hate about Fox News. I absolutely detest that you can't open a website up without going blah, 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 real loud. I don't like websites that do that, and I actually try to avoid them. But the reason I brought this one up was here's an example, and this was one of the last things. This was the last thing I wanted to talk about, so I'll come back to it. But here's an example where NFAC said they were going to stop the Kentucky Derby. Prior to that, their Grandmaster Jay, a Grand Wizard, had actually said he was going to burn down Louisville. Well, guess what? He walked back on all of that. Yeah, they had a march, they had an event, but they didn't go to the degree they said. And we'll talk about that in just a second. Grandmaster Jay, you know what it says here. He said that they had he said this: if we show up without any announcement, that's like an invading force. Okay, that's not the quote I wanted here. This site kills me because I had to go move this thing. Protesters aren't orderly. Protesters aren't organized. Protesters are emotional. Protesters are destructive. Where people can sneak in, he explained. So he's worried about what could happen. So what he was worried about was somebody getting hurt. And he actually said, oh, here's what I was looking for. He said, that is dangerous. This is the quote I want to read to you. I just got ahead of it. I had to move the page here to shut down that video, and I had to move off where I was at. He said, that is dangerous, and a bunch of innocent people could get killed. Well, now that was very responsible of him, considering that somebody got shot in this one event in one of their own formations. And when they were marching, his guys were pointing their guns at the crowd and everybody around the street side. That's an absolute no-no. You don't ever point a gun at anyone unless you plan to shoot them. That is totally irresponsible. And they claim to be military, they claim to be veterans, but, you know, guys, y'all need some training. And, you know, he is, and it's true that other groups can show up and make mayhem out of something a group started. And that's one of the things I was worried about with this refusefascism.org event, is they were claiming they wanted to be peaceful. The question is, who else was going to show up? And, you know, what they said here is 5 weeks ago, he made that promise to burn down Louisville in retribution for not having any justice on Breonna Taylor. And I would say the case of Breonna Taylor was tragic. The police went in and shot her, and, you know, she was totally innocent. So I can understand people being upset over that, and that was definitely something to have some grievance over. And you know, but is it something you burn a city down over? I've always said to you, two wrongs don't make a right. And you know what? Grandmaster, or Grand Wizard, I think is what he actually calls himself. That was Jay. Yeah, he actually seems to be on board with that. And he says, all y'all thought, at least he's Southern, all y'all thought we would show up with torches and burn the joint down. That's what he said earlier, right? That was figurative. It meant that we would burn down something, and we burned down wallets. Okay, these wallets that they burned down, the ones they came in on, I don't know. He said during a weekend that you, okay, well, he had planned to shut down the Kentucky Derby, and he had promised to burn down Louisville, and it didn't happen. Basically, he's walking all that back. And some people have been suggesting that one of the reasons he's doing it is he don't want to be on a terrorist list. Maybe he's waking up. Maybe he is smarter than we gave him credit for. You know, these guys showed up and made a big show early on. Then they shot one of their own, and they had their people passing out from heat exhaustion. Because you're wearing black out in the hot sun in summertime? Yeah, come on, guys, that would be a winter thing to do. So, yeah, there's a lot of stuff in here. Oops, we don't see all that. You can see here, looks like a militia band with some black guys all together. They don't appear to be too much. And the site's got to die. You know, I muted it once, and I hit the mute button, and I've hit it now twice, and it just insists on playing music and sound or talking. That upsets me. So I don't go to that website anymore. My apologies. That was the last thing I wanted to talk about because that was going to wrap up my point. But their silly website stole my show. So here we go. And I'm going to show some video from the event I went to. And I will kind of still spin the topic according to that a little bit. So that must make it an interesting set. By the way, we really don't know what's coming at us. The election times are still coming up. There's still a lot of room for internal strife. We know that. Pre-election and post-election. There's going to be a lot of dissatisfied people. Even bigger yet, a lot of people stand risk of being put out of their homes, being evicted. Mortgages are at risk. Rent is at risk. There's still a lot of people out of work. The unemployment may shut off at some point in the near future. The government can't pay out money forever without other consequences, such as inflation at some point really taking off. Because you're putting more money in the system, chasing less goods. That always equals inflation. It's been tempered because the U.S. dollar has been a world reserve currency, but you can only push that just so far. And there's also a big question that a lot of people are trying to end the U.S. dollar as a world reserve currency, and the dollar has other instabilities. So, all this could come to a crash and halt. Essentially, what we've done is we've expanded our expenditures voluminously, and we shrunk our tax base to nothing. So essentially our base has gone to zero and the top end has gone really wide. So eventually this whole thing could just topple over. All right, enough said on that. But what that means is our society is economically unstable. Our society is civically unstable with all the civil strife that we're having internally. And then we are having strife internationally. I have been talking about the prospects for warfare of recent. And I'm getting hit by an EMP strike, and there's always the sun out there. So there are things to be concerned about. There's real reasons to want to prep, and prepping is insurance, and it may be just a good investment because look at this. Here's what we've got. We've got a special deal here. If you go to prepwithgreg.com, at prepwithgreg.com, you could save $100 off 4 weeks supply of food for one person, and basically you're feeding one person right now if you catch it right now for $197. Now, if you wait around, that price may go up. There'll probably still be $100 off special, but the base price can be expected to go up because food is getting more and more scarce due to the things going on in China, the fact they're going to be buying food on the world market as much as possible, and at Derenchko or yeah, I can't say that right. Somebody sent me a thing to how to pronounce that, and I've already forgot it. But anyway, somebody was trying to help me. But that big inland hurricane they had in Iowa really wiped out a lot of crops. We're having hurricane season picking up now. We've already had a couple storms hit here and coming up through the Gulf Coast. There's others brewing in the Atlantic. So our crops may be at risk. We've already lost some. China is in terrible shape for food right now. They are buying everything they can afford to. But I still expect China to starve. So this could be a good investment. That's the whole point I'm making. This could be, just from an investment standpoint, this could be a really good deal because I'm really expecting food prices to shoot up. And guess what? That's a good price today. Today, that is an awesome price for any kind of food. But this will last 25 years. 25 years later from now, holy smoke. But better yet, this is survival food. If it really hits the fan anytime in the next 25 years, you can feed yourself and your family. And the more of these you buy, the better you are. I mean, 4 weeks, you could buy a bunch of these right now. You could stock up for a year for yourself, for 2 people, 3 people. If you've already got some preps, this is a good way to shore them up. The cool thing about this is it's in a neat carrying case. You can carry this around. It's lightweight because it's been freeze-dried. And they got awesome guarantee policies in here. So this is just a great, look at this food. It's got breakfasts and breakfast, lunch, dinner, and desserts, drinks. Hard to beat at those prices. And if you can't afford that, you might consider this. Hey, and I always tell you to go, I did a video on going to Sam's Club. You can always go to the big box stores and buy dry goods. and I've done that. But hey, look how this is easy to move. I mean, if you're looking at food that you can store for bug in, and it's easier to take with you on bug out, you know, as long as you're in a vehicle. Now, that's a little bit big for a backpack. But hey, you know, you could always stash this around in caches if you need to, or in some other bug out location. All right, enough said about that. I want to end that. Bam. So here we are, this group, refusefascism.org. You know, they posted 26 cities that they were going to have protests in. 26 cities. And they did have some protests. This is one in New York City. And well, they claim hundreds showed up. Maybe they do. I'm not really sure how far behind this front crowd this crowd goes back. I mean, right now I'm seeing, you know, maybe 20, 30 people here. You know, New York City, it should be easy to get a rally against Trump of a few hundred people. And so they've had this in a few cities. And I'm going to show I'm going to go down and look at that in a minute. So far, what it looks like is they've hit 13 U.S. American cities. And had protests in Brazil. I don't get that part. Some kind of freedom protest, but they claim that was part of their deal. So what they did is they had one, it looks like, from the best I can tell from going through this website, all I can really ascertain, now maybe they did a few more, LA, New York City, San Francisco, Chicago, Atlanta, Seattle, Washington, D.C., Orlando, Florida, Boston, Cleveland, Kansas City, Detroit City, Detroit, Rock City, Philly, Philadelphia, that is, the city of brotherly love. And so that, you know, that's like 13 American cities. Yeah, maybe they had more. There were protests in these other cities, but they weren't all refusefascism.org. In fact, I went to the one in Huntsville, and guess what? It was BLM. It was not Refuse Fascism. As a matter of fact, I actually heard somebody walking around once the protesters come through, and they said, I thought I was coming to an anti-Trump campaign, but it wasn't, or an anti-Trump rally or protest, but it wasn't that at all. They didn't have a single sign that was anti-Trump that I saw. It was all BLM. And they talked BLM. They didn't walk around and say diddle about Trump that I heard. I mean, they did in other places, but all I heard was Black Lives Matter and F the police. And then maybe they had one other chant. Go on, guys. You know, look, I was in the Army. When we marched, we had several songs we sang for them. They had a lot of cadence and beat, and some of them were downright funny. You know, you need to work on these things. Just kidding, having some fun here. All right, guys, but look at this. And I'm showing you this. Why am I showing you this? Because we've got to gauge what the real threats are in front of us. And if they're not as serious as we thought, well, we need to think about that. And maybe they are more serious. Maybe they're just gearing up. They don't want to, you know, burn all their powder early on, you know, in the conflict of sorts. You know, there was that old adage from the Battle of New Orleans, man, Andrew Jackson, don't fire into the sea the whites of their eyes. Of course, that was some other places too. So what I'm going to do here is go to look here, bam. Actually, I should have used that one. This is the sights and sounds of the event. And there's a speaker, and I believe that's in San Francisco. And here they said hundreds march in New York, maybe. And let's say this. There's kind of interest in there in New York. Might have got energetic. Here's the woman speaking in San Fran, I believe. You know, Bay Area. I'm seeing one guy on stage there. But I might show you, you know, if you look down through here, you're not seeing some of these places big crowds. Okay, sometimes these are the speakers, so you wouldn't expect to see a big crowd on the stage. Some of these are quite interesting. Hollywood, okay, well, there's a few people there, but that's LA still, so I don't know if that counts as two in the same area, since, you know, LA is such a big area. But I'm not. All right, here's one. This is Atlanta. You know, that don't look like more than a dozen people. You know, for Atlanta, that's pretty puny. That's not even a big banner. Now, maybe they had more people there, but I'm not seeing them. This is Seattle. Of course you'd have a group in Seattle. I mean, gee, they had CHOP in Seattle, right? But are you really seeing a lot of people in this photograph? There's a few over here. And this is the one that gets me. This is Washington, D.C. You know, they're bringing their demands to the White House, right? I see 4 guys holding the banner. There's no big crowd behind them. Actually, there's people around out there, but are they part of it? Well, only 4 guys holding the banner. Here's a guy, but he's walking behind them. Is he got anything to do with it? I don't know. Maybe some of these guys are holding the signs. Are they part of something else, a different outing? Okay, now here's one where they're, you know, really, yes, New York. New York had, you know, something going on. Orlando, Florida. Well, they had something down there, but again, you know, I'm only seeing here 6 people. Oh, okay, 7. Maybe there was 700. I don't know, but but you like these. This is puny gatherings here, guys. These are puny. Here, one guy here, one guy way over here. Maybe a few more out here. All right, there's a few right there. I'm just not seeing tons of people in some of these events. San Francisco. Now you're expecting people in San Francisco. East Oakland. Is this the same event as San Francisco? I don't know. Maybe it was different. And here's one in Cleveland. Again, you know, I'm not really seeing a ginormous crowd. Okay, this is the one in Kansas City. Well, I only see 2 people. 2 people. So, you know, I don't know, guys. Philly has a few folks. You know, again, they keep going through NYC. They got to cycle NYC pictures all through here. Maybe make it like they had some people. Okay, there's a few people in Philly, but I'm only seeing, you know, about, you know, 1.5 fingers of hands of fingers there of people. And, you know, so they got hundreds of protests downtown against the administration. Well, it's Chicago. Okay, Chicago had a big one apparently. You know, hundreds of them. You expect thousands, right? Here's Orlando again. Okay, not too many people. Ah, okay, Houston. We'll have to add Houston to the list. So make it 14 American cities. I didn't catch that one when I scrolled through earlier. So there you go. They're going to go back to NYC. You know, they got to put NYC in every other picture because they don't seem to have a lot to show. But let me show you something else. That why did I feel not too challenged or not too worried about going to the event in Huntsville, Alabama? I will show you here in a second. Why did I not feel too concerned? So I told everybody to stay away from these things. I said, guys, these are risky. You need to stay away from them unless you just have to be there. And what happens when I go? I'll go back to the main site because it looks like they changed their banners a little bit for page to page. Go back here to the main site here. So they got news and they got act, about, somewhere they got a little thing where it's classes, it's webinars. There it is. This is told me more than anything about this group, this page right here. This is their webinar page. This is their YouTube website. And this is what really deflated them to me. This is the Refuse Fascism YouTube channel. And how many views again? 37, 29, 35, 55, 65, 155 here, 179, 115, 94, 19, 103, 73, 73, 90, 39. There's a 39, or 33, and a 57. Oh, that one got 1.1K. Ah, interesting. Well, what they did to drive views to that one. But what I'm seeing here is really pitiful, small view counts on these. For a nationwide organization that was going to stage something to overthrow the President of the United States by sheer force of numbers and protests, it's going to go for 60 days. I'm scrolling back through here. I'm 7 months back, and I'm still seeing just hundreds, low hundreds usually, like, you know, usually less than 200 on each video. And some of them like 77, even way back here, you know, 8 months ago. So what's that tell me? It tells me this is a small little group. 75 views is all they got there 10 months ago. So, yeah, what I get out of this is this group is overblown. The events that were in Huntsville, Alabama were not a event of this, even though they listed this on their website and said Huntsville, Alabama was one of their meeting places. It was BLM, not these guys. Oh, by the way, on the night of September the 6th, there was an arrest that was made to local news at the BLM event. And some guy who was actually threatening them when he was drunk and brandishing a gun, he was publicly intoxicated, and he got arrested. And this made the news. Well, there was another arrest that I captured on video, 2 videos. I had it on my little camera I was giving a live cast with. I had somebody with me filming, and we're going to switch views here and go to that camera in a minute. I don't want to play this one just yet. So let me go back here and stop that share. Hello. And we're going to go over and look at my other video from my other camera. And this is a better video quality than I was getting from my camera, because my camera does good video quality if I'm not doing a live stream. But when I do live streams, it only looks like you're looking through an open door. It will not rotate, and the quality is really in the drink. But here, this video looks really nice. And so I'm going to start. I'm going to have to skip ahead a little bit, because this takes place over a bit. Here's a gentleman. This guy, he's going to get arrested. Now look at this. Here we are on a Japanese bridge donated by the general, and I read the plaque in my video that I posted Saturday night. Well, look at there's kids here. You see that? I didn't film this. Here I am. That's where I'm about to read this plaque. I try to avoid filming kids, but the lady wouldn't. Barely caught that one. I don't know. Now the BLM people are right behind me. I mean, I walked in behind them. You can hear them yelling. But this guy in the red shirt, he's going to get in a lot of trouble here. Now, we had ran into him earlier, and he seemed to be drunk, and he met my accomplice, and he showed him some white powder or something out of his pocket and said, yeah, this is going to get him, or something like that. So he was already out to make trouble, apparently. Now, I don't know what all went on with him, but check it out. I'm going to skip ahead a little bit, because it actually occurs just a little bit later, like around the 22 minutes or something. There we are. There they are at this pavilion. The Black Lives Matter guys are there. This guy's going to walk up, and apparently a policeman sees him and corners him, because he's drunk in public. Now, maybe he did something. Maybe he said something. He was being very loud, by the way. And I kind of thought maybe somebody from the BLM group here called the police on him, even though they're out there yelling F police, because the main police group had followed him over here to the pavilion, spent a little time with him, and they all went back across the bridge. And then this one policeman talks to the guy, and suddenly the whole troop comes running back. You know, they're basically and running across that bridge, and they take him down. Now, they did take him down, but I didn't see them beat him. They held him down a little bit forcefully, but they had to subdue him. He resisted arrest, and they handcuffed him, picked him back up, and took him out. So they didn't kill him, but all these guys were definitely videoing and challenging, why y'all doing this? Why y'all doing this? So even if one of them did call him in, most of them were not aware of it. And it may be that none of them called him in. Maybe it was just a policeman. But you can see all this. There he is. There he is right there. There's a cop. He's coming up to intercept him. He's going to come around him. Now, mind you, it wasn't obvious to the lady filming this what was about to go down there. She was just panning the camera around. But you can see this guy's over there. They're on the other side of this tree, and they're having a conversation. Other policemen weren't coming up. But they apparently had come up before that, because I would say I saw them running. I saw them running across that bridge. So that means he just got there a little earlier. They had all walked off, and that one guy got there first. So I'm kind of thinking that somebody from the BLM crowd actually called them on this guy. Now see here, they're trying to start to take him away. Somebody came in and he starts to resist. And all the BLM guys are getting excited while they're grabbing this guy. He wasn't one of them. He was just there drunk. See, they're all filming now. What's going on here? There they are. They took him down. But they didn't take him down hard. He hit the ground fast. I mean, watch.
Somebody came here and caused trouble. Yeah.
Hear me say, somebody came here and caused trouble.
Somebody came here and caused trouble.
They got him down right there.
You're fine.
100% bullshit.
Oh, sorry about that. So they pick him up, take him out. This guy here comes over and talks to me. And there you have it. So there was the arrest. Let's see. Might capture some earlier video. All right, go later. Yeah, the Black Lives Matter group was crossing the bridge right there. Yeah, we were following right behind them. We caught up to them. We had to cut them off the pass almost, but they were ahead of us. I'll stop the share on that. So yeah, well, one of them actually came up to me and talked to me. Well, actually, I wound up talking to two of them directly for a while. Two of the older guys in that group. They were the only old guys in the whole group. They came up to me and started talking with me. I guess they were kind of curious of what two other older guy, an older guy and an older lady doing out there filming everything. But, you know, I wasn't trying to incite anything. You know, I listened to their case. Now, I'll admit, now some of these people have legitimate grievances, but their prescriptions are, you know, could be questionable. Now, this group did have a peaceful protest. You know, the guy who got arrested was not apparently part of them, and the guy who got arrested the next day was not a part of them. In each case, you had some guy drunk who was all emotion, got drunk, got emotional, knew this stuff was going on, and decided they would take some action. And, you know, it wasn't a good thing. And so if you're doing one of these things, you got to remember that there's a lot of people that's got their emotions stirred up by all this stuff. So yeah, you can be targeted. It's not a safe place. Somebody could have walked in there and just tried to start shooting everybody around. The sad thing about this was in a public park. There were kids all over this park. And it's, you know, a weekend event, you know, and families were out there. There was even a wedding ceremony being arranged at the Big Spring. If you watch my video that I posted Saturday night, you'll see all that. You'll see us walking around. The video quality isn't that great, but you know, it's interesting what all took place there. Now I'm going to wrap this up with this other perspective. I'm going to show you this a snippet of this other video, because in some places, see, what I was at was a BLM event, and even though it was billed as refusefascism.org. So the Refuse Fascism guys were taking credit for other organizations' events, apparently, because there was no banners that I could see from them, and nobody, you know, it was purely a BLM event. I even asked the organizers there, some of those people, I was, what is this? And they said it's BLM. So there you are. I had hoped to find the Refuse Fascism guys, because I really hoped I could find a leader of that organization and just talk to them. I want to ask them, how's it y'all plan to actually take Trump and Pence out of the White House? I mean, they were almost suggesting take them out now, which would suggest before the election. Yeah, I don't see that. And I really don't see them having a lot of effectivity on the election, except maybe backwards. Because what's happening is this. People are waking up. They're going, what? This is nuts. This is what a lot of people are thinking. I'm not telling you what it is. I'm telling you what a lot of people are thinking. This has turned a lot of people who would have voted maybe for Biden to say, I'm not going to do it. Why? Because they want law and order. Most people want law and order in our society. You want to defund police. You want to threaten riots. People just can't stomach that. And I think for that reason, a lot of their activities have been toned down of some of these organizations. And then again, some of them never had really planned anything about it in the first place. Other people came in. But in some cities, the new trend was that BLM would go into restaurants and run the diners off. And I'm going to show you just a little snippet of this one event here where apparently that was happening. And this video has been posted by some guy called The Outer Light. I'm not really familiar with his channel, so I'm not subscribed to it. But he has peaceful protesting in quotation marks as if to challenge that. And this was in Rochester, New York. Now, I'm told this happened in many cities on the 5th and maybe the 6th. So here's somebody going and just finding a family or some group in a restaurant having a meal, and they just go in and totally stop it. Throw their food away. There's people beating on the windows in places. Some places where they threw stuff through windows in restaurants and went up and threw people's food off the table or started eating and drinking. There's all kind of crazy stuff happening in this. Here's a little snippet, because I don't want to play this guy's video and get a, I'm not trying to infringe on his copyright, but just a little snippet. See what's happening here. They run in, start grabbing stuff, and tell them to get up. They're telling everybody to get up and say, help us protest. You're either with us or against us. And they're clearing they're clearing them out, they're running them off. And I have seen videos where they actually were knocking people's food out. That family just left. They didn't contest it. If you go a little further in here, you might see where they're beating on things. Let's see. Yeah, they're starting to get a little more rowdy here. All right, I've seen more video than this, but it's not my intent to share it. There's been other points. I just want to make the case that, yeah, this did happen. I mean, some places were not as peaceful as what I saw in Huntsville. And what I saw, anytime you get a group like this, there's always the risk of other people coming in, groups or individuals, and taking matters into their own hand. And if they're inebriated, oh my gosh. So yeah, it's not a good idea to be hanging around some of this stuff. But in Huntsville, Alabama, it's a very conservative city. It's got a Republican mayor, and he's very law enforcement oriented. The police were all over the place. And it's probably the case that the police actually protected the BLM guys there. I did hear of a case where the BLM guys, somebody threw a Molotov cocktail in the middle of the street, and they caught one of their own members on fire. They tried to put the fire out, and they couldn't do it. And the police actually came in and saved them. So they're sitting there defund police and chanting F the police, but the police are there to save you in the end. That's interesting. But that guy probably got severe, 3rd-degree burns, 2nd-degree burns. I don't know. His clothes were on fire. His pants legs were on fire badly, and they couldn't see him get. They had fuel all over it. Don't be throwing Molotov cocktails around. That's just insane. Guys, 2 wrongs don't make a right. And these things are weapons. You don't play with them like kid toys. Molotov cocktail is a very dangerous thing. And, see, you've already burnt your own people there. That's, it goes to show that these are not to be played with. They're not toys. And burning down other people's property, it does a couple of things. One, you're destroying other people's lives. But 2, you're turning people against you, against your cause. Now, I don't support ever taking other people's property. I do support freedoms. And I will tell you that everybody has a right to redress their grievances as stated in the First Amendment, peaceably. And it does say peaceably. So some people thought, well, it's not having an effect. We're not getting a message across. Well, you know what? You've got a message across, but what you've done is you made it backfire. Now, what I stand for is freedom. A lot of these people, you know, they have grievances, whether they're right or wrong. I'm not debating that today. I can get into that in the future, maybe, but that's not the purpose of this video. The purpose of what I'm trying to do right now is say that those grievances are out there. People have them, and they have the right to redress their grievances. Some people are saying that what they were doing, it was getting effect, so they thought they needed to up it to the next ante, and that backfires us. And I've been telling people they're being played, and maybe some of them are waking up to it now. You got that Grand Wizard Jay from the NFAC, you know, who's yeah, I always want to put a U in that for some reason. He's backing off a little bit. We're seeing less burning and carnage, at least on the 5th, than was typical. Other than messing with people in restaurants is not good. It's not cool. You know, when a family goes to have a family meal and you just got to go in and throw it out. All right, you know, how much money went into that? So yeah, that's not cool. And did you make friends when you did that to them? I don't think so. Maybe it made you feel powerful, but that's going to backfire. There's such a thing in this universe as karma. If you put bad karma out there, you can get it back. And Greg, that's not Christian. Well, actually, it is Christian, because Jesus says you reap what you sow. And that is so. Take it to the bank. That's the way the greater creator made this universe. Karma is laced into it. And you may be thinking that things you're doing aren't wrong. If you're hurting other people, it is wrong. I guarantee you. It is wrong. And 2 wrongs never make a right. You might have had a wrong against you, but 2 wrongs never make a right. I've been saying that all along here. You need to find other ways to redress your grievances. So the last thing we need in this country is a civil war. And I am a big buff of studying the history of the war between the states, which, you know, that was a very ugly event of war between states. Now, a civil war is all within the country, everywhere. That's even uglier. Far uglier. Civil War was our worst war of American experience. We do not need a Civil War II. That's not what we need. That is not going to serve anyone well in the end. In the end, everyone loses. So this is a call for level heads, for peace. Now, I'll say that you have a right to defend yourself. You have a right to defend your property and not to be run over. And that applies to everyone. So maybe cooler heads will prevail and we can come to some degree of reason. People have asked me where I stand. I'm a libertarian. Somebody asked me what kind of libertarian. I'm a conservative libertarian. And I usually don't vote for a lot of the times the libertarian candidates, because I support a certain amendment that gives me the right to do this. And I want to elect somebody who can actually make that happen, or be the least damaging to my rights. Because to me, my rights are very important, every one of them. Unfortunately, neither political party really honors all the rights therein. That's one of the reasons we're starting this this Freedom Restoration Foundation. We want to push for that, and it's got to be across all party lines. And we actually have a Democrat on our board, and a number of Republicans, and people of different religious persuasions. Christian, we got a Jew, and we have people of different backgrounds that come together in this organization to push for our freedoms. But the thing to take away from this is this: we are not sure what's going to happen coming up on elections. Oh. Also, there's another thing to be concerned with. 11 September. Great. Why 11 September? It's not a big anniversary. Actually, it is. In the Quran, the 19 is the sacred number. It's the number that occurs in a huge improbable amount of times. 19. Given the propensity of 19, this being the 19th anniversary, strikes me as being significant. Then I heard the Christian rabbi, Jonathan Cahn, talk about it in the context of his Harbinger too, as if he is expecting something on this for various different reasons of their signals and so things as he sees them and interprets them. Take this however you want to, but he sees that as being a very significant date. Maybe it is. It is a 9/11 date, and so something could happen with all the political context and everything going on right now. It would be right for some kind of event. So keep your eyes wide open and your head on swivel. We don't know what's coming at us. I've just made a case that maybe things won't be as bad as we thought, but don't get too smug in it yet, because we haven't reached the election. It could definitely ramp up by then, because there's still a lot of passion out there of people really not knowing what to do with it right now. It could explode. It could be like a powder keg. Maybe people are holding it in right now because they're they knew they were getting kind of slapped down and it was backfiring. And maybe that means it all happens post-election. Could be post-election. And either side winning, it may be a case that the other side will not accept it. And therein could be where the powder keg, where it goes, boom. It might be just after the election. Election's on the 3rd. Maybe things go boom on the 5th. Remember the 5th of November. That's the Guy Fawkes Day, as he supposedly tried to blow up the Parliament on the 5th of November, way back in history. In fact, that was used in the movie Vengeance, right? Vendetta, whatever. But that is what we have to remember, is that we really aren't sure yet. It may be that we've got some hope here. You can pray for some peace here and some understanding that all these worst case scenarios don't play out. A lot of YouTubers out there say, it's a civil war. We're in it right now. I submit they may be alarmist. Thinking they could be right. They could be right. I hope they're not. I won't dismiss them at this point. They could absolutely be right. But I'm seeing a crack, a glimmer of hope. We need to pray and hope that we get through this without all that. And that's what I want everyone to do. Say your prayers, but get ready, prep, get all your stuff together. But this isn't the only challenge we got. We've got international challenges. We have our domestic challenges. There are challenges in the weather. They may come to grand solar minimum. Our food is seriously challenged. Our economy is seriously challenged. It's like all those holes in Swiss cheese for all the bad things to happen are aligning. It's like the perfect storm. There's so much coming at us. You really, really have to get ready. And then there's those that talk about the Great Reset. Yeah, get ready, prepare, and also make peace with your Maker. That's enough said. I hope everyone had a wonderful, relaxing Labor Day weekend, and I hope you have a good week working this week. For those of you that can still work, I know a lot of you are working from home. To some of you, that's stressful, and to some of you, hey, it's a relief not to have to fight traffic going to and from. So I wish everyone a good week coming up. May it be peaceful, and may things proceed relatively peaceful through and after the election. That's what we can hope. But this year has been a roller coaster, and it could end far worse. And again, all that could fizzle out. Pray, and just pray and prepare. That's what I say. Thank you for watching.